Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next live stream. I'll be your producer for this session. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you for joining.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Before You Build, your Reactor preview for Microsoft Build 2026. I am Michelle Sanford, Developer Engagement Lead for Microsoft Asia, coming to you from Perth, Australia. Joining me today is my pal, Aaron Powell, who is a Principal Cloud Advocate. Aaron, welcome back to the Reactor.
Thanks for having me back, Michelle. Obviously, I did so well last time. You invited me back for a second round.
We should do more stuff. We should do stuff all the time. You're going over to Build, right? You will be there. So
yes,
you'll have some live stuff on the ground.
That's right. Yes, I'm heading over to Build next weekend, or not this weekend, the week, whenever. It's frighteningly close. But yeah, I'm going to be presenting some sessions. I'm going to be helping out at the expert zone for anyone that's able to be there in person. Drop by and say hi. If you're not, yeah, do join us online for all the live stream sessions that we're going to be running.
Yes, I will not be there. So that's definitely what I'll be doing, watching online. And this is pretty cool this year because all the sessions that I have picked out anyway, I saw that they were being recorded, so I'll be able to see them. In previous years, when I've looked for some stuff, it's all been only available in the room, and I would have been super jealous of you. But this year, it's all good for us. Yeah, so Build runs Wednesday, 3rd of June through Friday, 5th of June. And everything we talk about today is going to be available to watch live or on demand if you register at build.microsoft.com. Let's see. Anything else you want to remind them of, Aaron, before we jump into it?
No. I think let's jump straight into it and talk about what we're looking forward to, and some of the sessions that we've kind of picked out as I think key ones for people, particularly. I know that everyone's fairly time poor in terms of trying to, when am I going to be able to watch something, or what's relevant, and that's kind of what we're doing today, is hopefully giving you that pre-taster of these are the things that we as developers think is going to be really valuable for you from Build. So you don't have to wade through all the sessions. We've done that work for you.
When I'm picking out stuff, I might be searching on topic. So I'm often searching for what sessions are there for GitHub Copilot. But the other thing that I look out for is particular speakers. How is it that you look out for stuff? Do you do you search for speakers, or do you search for topics, or a bit of both?
Topics tend to be my go-to as well. I think about the kinds of projects that I'm working on recently, or the stuff that I've heard people talking about that has sounded really interesting, but I have not had the time to watch a YouTube live stream, or that I've not been able to read the documentation about, or kind of any of that other stuff. And I find this is it's a good balance. The people that are presenting these sessions at Build are the experts in that area. So, why not learn from them and be like, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to check out hosted agents in Microsoft Foundry. So I'm going to watch the session about hosted agents because that's done by the people in the product team that are working on this. My colleagues in DevRel that are this is their area of expertise. Learn from them, and then use that as the stepping stone to then go into the documentation around how to do that in a particular language or whatever the case may be.
They often show you like the quickest way to get into it as well. So instead of, starting with the blah, 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 what don't I need to know? How do I just get to it? And what is a really fun thing to build with it? I enjoy that because it's more fun for me learning when I can build something fun.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of these sessions are going to be technical in what they're showing you, but with, kind of a sample application you could jump into afterwards as well.
So this is the home page for build.microsoft.com, and all you do is you can register, and you can register for free if you're going to watch it online. Obviously, if you're going to San Francisco, it's a little bit costlier. I'm not sure how many of us are going over from Asia, but I know there is a huge contingent of our customers in Japan that are excited to be there. So that's very cool for them. You'll have to watch out for them, Aaron. You'll know who they are because they're always the most fashionably dressed. Yeah, and then once you're at this homepage, then you log in, then you're able to start planning your experience and looking at what you want your event to look like. So there's all sorts of things on here. You've got your session catalog, your speaker directory, archives for looking at previous years. Plan your experience, my event. What I've done here is I've already gone through and pinned a bunch of, I just marked a bunch of things as favorites, because you see what's happened here is it's as I have multiple session conflicts in this same time slot. So there's loads of really good stuff on at exactly the same time. I'm not too worried about that because of this bit where it says will be recorded. So I know that it doesn't really matter that they're playing at the same time. I'm not going to get up at 3 a.m. anyway, or 4:30 a.m. and watch those things. I'm going to watch the recording afterwards. And yeah, it's probably more a matter of what is my priority. So I have put the things in the schedule. I have favorited them all. That's just so that I can easily come across them. But I don't know. Do we want to talk about our favorite sessions first, or do you want to show them what they can do with the Copilot CLI?
Well, I mean, I think this is a good segue to Copilot CLI, because I'm very much a CLI person. While I might be a web developer by trade, I grew up with Linux and Unix as my main operating system. So I'm very comfortable in the terminal. And I've got something that I want to show of another way that you can go through and browse through the agenda, and that's via Copilot CLI. So we'll switch over to my screen. And I've got Copilot CLI running, and something that we've created for people like myself that are CLI people is the ability to actually find sessions from Copilot CLI, or you can do this in VS Code and kind of anywhere that you can work with the with Copilot experiences. But as I said, I'm a CLI person, so I'm going to be using it here. So I'm going to install a plugin to Copilot CLI. So I'm just going to /plugin install, and then we're going to install the Microsoft Events plugin from the awesome Copilot repo. Typing and talking at the same time, brain working together. So I'm going to hit enter on that. So what this is going to do is it's going to install, and we can see there it says that we've installed a new skill. I'm just going to restart Copilot so that it picks up that skill properly. And what it's done is, well, actually, let me bring across a browser. I'll show you what we've installed. Also, because it looks like my restart didn't work. So let's just, this is one of the joys of working on internal products as well, is that you get these new things that don't necessarily work the first time. So it's live. It's live because things broke. Anyway, so this is the build CLI. It's actually renamed the Microsoft Events CLI in the plugin marketplace, because we'll reuse this for, say, Ignite later in this year. But it allows you to install a skill that means that you can do things like find out what sessions are going to be relevant to, say, a project that you're working on. Now, the way this works is it's going to look at things about, say, the current repo that you are in. So this can really help you contextualize around, what you're actively working on. But you can also ask it more open-ended questions around, like I want to, find something about, say, Cosmos DB or Copilot CLI, and it'll then it'll go out there and it will search the session planner for you. The session list for you, and bring you back lists of sessions that you might be interested in. And let's just completely relaunch my Copilot. In Windows Terminal, I actually have Copilot as an option, so it just drops it straight in there. I don't even have to open up PowerShell first. It just goes straight to Copilot CLI. All right, so this is a skill. So I've got this in here, and it is on the, if we go skills, we'll see that I actually have a lot of skills installed at the moment. But if we scroll down, and where is it? There it is, Microsoft Build. I can see on here. So this is the skill that's been installed, so that I can use it. I'm not currently in a particular project at the moment. I'm just in my the root of my file system. So I'm interested in, let's say, VS Code. What sessions there at build for me? And this is where we're also going to see the power of working with AI live, is that we're going to assume that it's going to do what I want it to do. And I can see that it's already started to veer off course, and it's using the GitHub MCP server. So good success, straight off the bat there. I probably should have just used the /skill event. So there we go. It's looking for the build catalog and stuff like that. But anyway, this will go ahead and it'll bring you back. There was an example response that it was showing. Oh yeah, here. So it'll bring back, you can get back something like it'll bring you back a table of these are sessions that are going to be of interest to you and stuff like that. Now, because this is just a skill, like I said, you could drop this into VS Code if you're preferring to use it in VS Code. It'll light up there as well. It will work with inside of the new GitHub app if you've signed up for the pre-release of that and you're using that, so you can use it with inside of there, and kind of anywhere that you can work with Copilot. Whoa. Sorry, my machine decided to launch another browser. Anyway, you're kind of working with Copilot and things like that. So yeah, that's just another way you can do it. Like I said, it can be really useful working with inside of a repo, or inside of a particular project, because it'll analyze the what code are you working on, what technologies are you using inside of that. It sees that you're working with Azure SQL, so it'll find things that are going to be relevant to Azure SQL, not just you might be interested in databases. Maybe you should go and check out a session that is not relevant to the technology that you're interested in. So yeah, just another way that we can play around with this. But anyway, I will pause and take a breath and let Michelle interject.
Okay, maybe we can switch back to my screen and have a look at how it looks on mine. What they say in those instructions is if you run it from the repo that you're currently working in, it will use the context of that repo to suggest build sessions for you based on what is relevant to that repository. So it should give you more relevant context based on your current needs. Aaron and I are both not doing that. We're both doing it from just the basic code one, and we probably both just have a bunch of demos in there anyway. So I'll just ask it what I should look at build. What sessions should I look at for build? And let's see what it says to me. I also have it open in a terminal rather than in VS Code. Just reason being, when I want to view stuff, so it is using the build skill. So look, scan all my projects. Yeah, scan all my projects. Tell me, have a look at what I've got and tell me what is interesting. So that's pretty cool. Using it in terminal because we've just got more screen width and estate so that you can kind of read more as to what it's recommending to us. When I'm in VS Code, obviously you've just got like part of the screen or the bottom part of the screen when I use Copilot in the CLI. I was not loving it initially. I was always preferring to use chat, but Aaron converted me when we went to DDD Melbourne this year. He was obsessed with using Copilot in the CLI, and I have to confess I have fallen in love with it since then. If you haven't had a chance to check out the awesome Copilot directory repository, you should definitely check that out as well. That is where maybe I'll show you that quickly after this, because Aaron spends about 80% of his time just working in that directory now, just approving all the marvelous recommendations from the community for instructions, for skills, for hooks, for agents. It's got everything in there you could possibly need, and you can just take those things and put them into your own code base and then build on those. So you don't have to leave them as is, you can add stuff to them, but it's better to start with a best practice recommendation than just writing it all from scratch alone. Okay, so it has suggested like a bunch of things for me, and so many things, but it did ask me, did I want to output those to like a doc or something?
Yeah. So I've actually realized why mine has been taking so long to return from the build CLI skill there is because I ran this on my D drive root, which is where I have all of my projects. I have like a couple hundred folders on that with like all kinds of code bases in there. So like, when you gave it permission to start scanning yours, I'd forgotten that I'd previously told it that it was allowed to do that. So it was scanning through so many directions. Mine's just finished because like, it took way longer than yours because it went through so many.
That's because this is a brand new laptop that I've only had probably less than a month. So I haven't actually got a lot of stuff locally on here. And you know that generally I don't put stuff on my laptop anymore. I don't use VS Code locally unless I want to code in the clouds, by which I mean when I'm flying, because ironically the only place you cannot code to the cloud is when you're in the clouds, no Wi-Fi. So generally though, I open up code spaces to do all my coding in, so I'm always coding in the cloud. I don't have anything locally on my laptop at all. But in this case, I've got about 5 directories, not many things on here. So that's why it's given me a much more. So it's looking for stuff around Node, Express, .NET 8, TF Core, Azure Container Apps, GitHub Copilot, CLI agents, MCP, and DevOps CI/CD. So actually, that is what's interesting to me right now. So here it has given us idea to production, ready agent in seconds on AI native runtime. That actually sounds excellent, by Simon and Devanshi. Then we've got make GitHub Copilot work your way, custom tools, context, and workflows. So Aaron actually did an episode on this kind of thing for New Breakpoint for us. What was it called? Add agents to anything.
Yep.
Which was pretty cool. So obviously we love that, and we want to see whether Josh and Tiago can do it any better. That's a workshop. That's a lab. Let's see what GitHub Copilot misses. Why GitHub Copilot misses context and how to fix it. Oh, that's useful, isn't it? Scroll for
and then you can take these session codes and then find them on the build website. You just paste in that session code and it'll go ahead and you can search on that Or if you really want to be sneaky and you know how the URLs are structured, you can figure out where the session code goes in the URL to navigate there.
Yeah, this is interesting because I think all the things that's brought up for me there are super interesting to me. I definitely want to do all of those things or many of those things. But when I was looking myself in the catalogue, is that the one? Yeah, these are not the same sessions that I have found for myself. So that's interesting as well, because it's given me like a bunch of different things than what I have found. Yeah, I do want to just call out this one though, the Scott and Mark. All the Scott and Mark ones, I just think, where I said before, do you search on the topic or do you search on the speakers? These are a couple of speakers that everyone loves. I absolutely adore them. Scott is, always on the social media, always making videos, always sharing content. And Mark Rasinovich, when I first joined Microsoft, he was the guy that I got all the recommendations from my engineers to go and see. They all told me I would have to go to his session, but I need to skip the session before because I would need to be queuing outside of his room from the session before in order to get in that room. And they don't do that anymore. What they do now is they have overflow rooms where you can watch him on a big screen. But I don't want that. I wanted to be in the front row so that I could speak to him. I don't care about celebrity, like movie stars, but tech celebrity. Like these two are tech celebrities that I absolutely adore. Funny and clever. Who are you a fan of? I should say, Aaron, it's not just about me fangirling stuff. Is there any particular speakers that you watch as a speaker, as opposed to, whatever topic they're teaching, you'll be there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Scott and Mark will deliver a masterclass on how to present, because it is always like fantastic in how they do it, and the way that they are able to bring, I would say, make something that can seem dauntingly technical to like a level that is very approachable. So yeah, I would highly recommend that as a session. I'll always look out for sessions from my colleagues. So inside of the DevRel team, other folks that are that I know that are going to present. One, because like I want to be there to support the people that I work with directly, but also because these are the people that I do work with, it's always great to learn from the way that they approach a problem and the way that they'll present something. So some of my colleagues like Pamela Fox, she's doing a couple of sessions around things like Microsoft Foundry and stuff like that. So I would definitely look out for that, and also they tend to stretch me into technology areas that I wouldn't necessarily touch. So Pamela's in the Python advocacy team, so she's going to be talking about that kind of stuff, which is not going to be my area of expertise as predominantly a .NET developer. So I can always learn something, not just from how to present, but also actually get some technical insights there as well. But I try to avoid too much picking because of the speaker, because then I worry that I pigeonhole myself into stuff that I may already know, because I'm going to see something where it's someone that I know who's presenting, so I'm already going to know that, or be somewhat familiar with that technology. So for me, yeah, I like to lean more that what is the thing that I want to learn most about at it.
Cool. So tell us some of your picks then.
Well, I mean, now that I've said that I don't go to sessions based off of the presenters or things that I know too much about, one of the sessions that I'm very keen to go check out is, let me get the session code BRK 205. Sorry. So do we want to swap back to my screen, and I can?
Yeah.
Oops, I have zoomed in too far, and now I've lost my navigation. So this session here, Aspire for Agents. So Aspire, for anyone who's unfamiliar with, is a platform for building distributed applications. And I've been doing a lot of work with the Aspire team over the last couple of years. I run an open source project that is a companion to it's an open source, Aspire is an open source project, but I'm running another open source project that's a companion. It's community managed rather than product and Microsoft managed. And the Aspire team has been really heavily leveraging AI and agentic workflows to build out more and more features inside of Aspire as a platform. So I'm really keen to go and check out this session. David Fowler and Damien Edwards are both fantastic speakers in their own right, but also this session of how a product team at Microsoft is leveraging AI to build out their product and then design their product to then work with AI so that people that are using Aspire and say GitHub Copilot are then going to get the maximum amount of value from it. So this will be a great one. And this is not a .NET session. This is going to be a session for whether you're building TypeScript applications or Python applications or anything like that. It will be. I think there's going to be a lot of value in this kind of in this session in particular. For me though, like Copilot CLI, this is like I am always looking for ways to get better at what I am doing with this. So actually, let's filter this to sessions that are only sessions that are going to be recorded and stuff like that. So so that's going to be sessions that are listed as breakouts. Labs, obviously you have to be there in person, and lightning talks are also not going to be recorded sessions, but breakout sessions are the primary amount of recorded stuff. So this session around Visual Studio, so BRK 207, .NET developer. So I haven't been keeping up about how to leverage GitHub Copilot with inside of Visual Studio, and I want to know more about that. I know that the team has been working really hard on that. And this idea of how to use it for debugging and profiling of applications, I think that's really, for me, that's a really interesting way to leverage AI. Where we think about it, getting it to write code for us, or be that rubber ducky to work through ideas and problems. But this idea of having it as that rubber ducky that's in your debugging session as well, so that it can pick up what's happening while you're trying to diagnose the bug, and then give you suggestions, that you would have done, like you do with pair programming, where you've got that person sitting next to you. You're doing that with an AI agent, and I think that sounds really fascinating. And I know it's obviously going to skew more to the .NET developers because this is the Visual Studio session, but it could be something that's worthwhile thinking about from anyone who is not doing .NET development, but just how you could apply this agents differently in the workflows that you're doing. So that's going to be a pick for me as well. And the other topic that I am wanting to learn more about is hosted agents. I signed in and rather than watching you bounce through all of it. So this session here, so this is with some folks that are going to be talking about things like we've all heard about OpenCore, or there's a good chance most people have heard about things like OpenCore. I want to know a bit more about how does that sort of a workflow, or that sort of a tooling chain, which we're seeing people trying to deploy on their own machines or running in their home labs. How do we leverage that inside of real world applications and these the sorts of stuff that we're building from a customer perspective? So BRK 243, that's one that I've got in my to watch schedule, because I think that sounds really interesting of this idea of leveraging agents within inside of a real world session. I actually do believe we have some the OpenCore. I think we have some stuff around OpenCore. Maybe it's not in any of the breakouts, but yeah, I think I saw something like that on the agenda. That kind of stuff is, really interesting to me.
We've been seeing like an internal version of that. I don't know whether have you had a chance to play with that, the internal version that we've got? Because I couldn't, like, when I read all that stuff about OpenCore, it sounds amazing, but also I don't want to trust an AI that much with all of my stuff. I don't want to enable it to go out with all my identities and my credit cards and everything and let it run my world, because it might, I'm not sure yet whether it's going to run my world for good or for evil, or whether anyone might corrupt it. But we have got like an internal version of it. Maybe that's what they're talking about in here.
Yeah.
Have you had a go yet?
I have not. I'm actually running OpenCore on my own
In a
home infrastructure. So I maybe I have a little bit more trust than Michelle, but I'm not running it on my actual work computer or anything like that. I have an old Mac Mini that is sitting on a shelf that is it's running it with inside of Docker, just to kind of sandbox it there. Don't want it to just do like an rm-rf at the root directory or anything like that. The session I was trying to remember, I should just sign in anyway. BRK 245. So Peter Steinberger is the guy who created it, OpenCore. So like that, I think that'll be a really interesting one. And yeah, so that if you're into that like side of like, AI and like agentic processing that's outside of just using it to like kind of write code or manage repositories and things like that.
Well, I think even if you're not into it, it is something that everyone should know about, because I think it's world changing, or potentially world changing, and you need to know what it's all about, even if you're not going to build with it yourself. That one that you were just watching, looking at previously, I just had that open, and they've tagged that as a level 400, which that's supposed to be like super, super hard. Maybe for people who are not familiar with the Microsoft ecosystem, we should just very quickly explain what the difference is between level 100, 200, 300 and all of that.
Yeah. Well, let's pop that, just kind of do that, expand a bit there on the side as well. So with the way that we kind of, I guess, classify sessions is, kind of that 1 to 400 range of the level of technical complexity, and I'd almost say pre-work before you go into that session. So for example, like a level 100 session, that is somewhere where you would come in and I don't necessarily know anything beforehand. Maybe this is I've heard of that technology and I want to learn about it, and it's going to be very foundational. Like it's going to teach you the introduction, the basics, and that kind of stuff. And then it progressively becomes more and more in depth in what they're going to dive into in some of that. So I've actually just I've added a search filter for GitHub, and then if you flick to 400, so these are sessions that are like a level 400 session on GitHub are going to be targeted at people that are very actively using GitHub. Like it is where you're putting all of your code. It is what your organization is maybe using for like backlog management. It doesn't have to be open source GitHub. It could be you're using private repos, GitHub Enterprise, something like that. But it's going to be very deeply technical. For example, the second session that I've got here in this list, which is the one around VS Code. So they're going to be talking about how they ship VS Code. Now, are the majority of people out there shipping VS Code? Well, no, like most people are not, building something like that. But a lot of us are working on problems that are of that level of complexity. So the sorts of things they're going to be covering is, well, how do you do release management of a project that is inherently technically complex? So at this point where you're diving into something that is going to be deeply technical, it is going to be not for someone that has never used GitHub as an example. It will be definitely for those people that are looking for that really, that next level of technical expertise. And that's actually some feedback that we've received from events in the past, is that we have tended to go very heavy towards the foundational side of things, which is great for people that are just coming into the Microsoft ecosystem or are just picking up a new technology. But we know that a lot of our customers out there, like, you've been using this for years and years. Like, you're not new to GitHub, or you're not new to working with Python, or you're not new to working with, like AI and building out AI systems. So how do you go to that next level? Well, that's where you start looking at maybe like the 300s and the 400 level sessions, because they're going to be that really deep technical, not another to-do list sort of thing.
It gave me like a really good idea as you were talking about that. So I just went back into my GitHub Copilot CLI and said to it, could you, I'd like to have a learning schedule for Microsoft Build on agentic AI in the SDLC. Could you build me that learning schedule, taking me from level 100 all the way to level 400 across both days, just in order? And it's given me like a really neat schedule, starting with the foundations and its recommendations, and then just going to level 200, intermediate, how do we work in practice, and it's listed a bunch of sessions there. And then level 300, build it, secure it, ship it, and like listing a bunch of sessions in there. And then to level 400, expert full cycle agentic engineering, and a few sessions in there. And I think that's a really good way to, if you're thinking, this is my focus area, this is what I want to do, and I don't want to get distracted by all of the sparklies that you can definitely see when you just start exploring, you can get it to give you a personalized learning path based on your specific direction, and then it will dump all of that into a markdown file. Or you can ask it to adjust for any time conflicts. But as I say, in Asia, let's not worry about that. Let's assume we're all going to watch the recordings. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. So I think that's the idea of a really innovative use of AI here, is that you can this idea of a build session planner that Michelle's got here, that it can help you make out that structured learning progress over the course of it. So you could obviously this has a narrow down pathway, but you could use that narrow down pathway as the project that you're on, and take me, I'm new to this particular project, I want to learn about a particular bit of technology in there, and it will build that out for you using the content. And you could even have it build out multiple concurrent ones, so that you've got days and days worth of videos that you can watch after the event.
I think that's a problem for me when I have too much, and when there's just too many things, then eventually all I end up doing is saving everything as a favorite and then never watching it. So I like this a lot. I like if I just pick one particular thing that I want to learn, I want to become an expert in agentic development in the SDLC, and here is my learning path. Follow it without even thinking about any of the other options. Love that.
Yeah.
Comprehensive picture, progressive learning schedule. Yes, very cool. Cool. Well, I don't know. What else are you interested in learning and sharing? What are you going to do when you get there, Aaron? What is you're working on one of the connection hubs? Is that how it works? Are you teaching anything yourself, or just connecting with everyone and interviewing people on the floor and stuff like that?
I was going to say the very first thing I'm going to do when I get there is probably go to bed, because it's a long bit of travel here from Australia. So so I'm going to be, I've got a lightning talk. So I'm going to be, unfortunately, that's not going to be a session that will be recorded. But if it goes really well, maybe I can come back and do an extended version for the reactor, Michelle. Just see that out there. So I'm going to be doing a session around GitHub Copilot and like how you can make the most out of it. I'm also going to be supporting one of our labs that we've got there around Microsoft Foundry. So, and I think that's a 100 level lab. So teaching people how to get started with Microsoft Foundry, kind of like that, up and running, building out like the basic patterns using local agents as well as hosted agents, and kind of play around with that a bit more, so that people then, feeds onto their learning journey for over the rest of the event. But otherwise, I'm going to be spending a lot of my time around the expert zone, where like, so this is going to be an opportunity for like people that are there at Build to come up and talk to the folks that are, like, we're living and breathing this stuff like all the time. Like how do we use something like, Copilot CLI, or how are we using like agentic workflows inside of inside of our GitHub repos to manage like an open source project and things like that. So like, I'm really, I've been really trying to extend and stretch the way that I'm using Copilot to help me, manage all of my daily tasks, and looking forward to being able to share that with other people that are at Build, and hopefully give them some inspiration and some ideas of other things that they hadn't maybe considered or aren't trying with Copilot to leverage it in the workflows that they're building.
Do you know what? That's making me think of, because a lot of people I think are kind of half excited, but also half panicked by what AI means for them, means for their jobs, means for the way we work. Everything seems to be changing very fast. There's often a feeling that there's like a loss of control, and people are worried that definitely if they can't keep up with the AI, then that's not good for their job. When we were at AI tour the other week, I saw one of our colleagues on the floor, and he said he felt really sad because he thought that it was really bad for people in our industry, because if you're working in a small company, your company is going to look at the 5 developers in your team and say, instead of 5 developers, why don't we get rid of 3 of them and do what we're doing now with 2 of them faster and cheaper? And I was really surprised by that, because that's not what I think is happening. I think that a company that looks at their developers and says, we could do this faster and cheaper, is not going to be here in 2 years' time, because you can't keep doing the same thing that you've always been doing and just be in a race to the bottom with your competitors. I think your competitors are going to leapfrog over you because they enable their developers to build more, do more, create more, innovate more, and 10x your company by letting your developers get rid of all of that toil and grind they were doing in their day-to-day life, giving that to the Copilot and letting them focus on what they can really build and create. I often say it, developers write the code that the world runs on. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us and for companies if they trust their developers and they give them free will to explore with this creativity. And what do you think? Is it a dark time? Are we depressed? Or do you think that there is hope for us all?
I think I've probably got the similar sort of optimistic look that you have there, Michelle. And one of the reasons that I look at that is that I kind of look at the journey that I've taken with this. So when I first started using these AI tools, I've been writing software for over 20 years. So it doesn't necessarily feel like it's replacing what I've been doing for the better part of the last 20 years. Instead, I'm able to offload the stuff that I don't find in interesting, I think is probably the right word, about like what I'm doing. So I think back to like before I joined Microsoft, I was working at a consulting company, and we were consulting to large financial institutions or into government departments and stuff like that. And a large part of kind of building enterprise applications was really simple bits of code. You've got a database table, you need to map that through to a type inside of .NET, and then you've got to surface that out through some APIs that you then build an interface around, you build business logic over the top of, and so on and so forth. The mapping a database table and taking a database table and turning that into a .NET object, it's code that has to be written, but it's not very interesting code to write. We've got plenty of tools out there that can generate that code for us, and then creating a service layer so that you have like a separation of concerns between the talking to the database and the user interface. Again, like it's not particularly complex code to write, but it wasn't interesting. The interesting stuff was how you apply the business rules, the logic around that, the validation, and all those sorts of things. And that has always been the part of what I enjoy about writing software, not the SQL query that has to update a database table and make sure that the mutations are happening with inside of a transaction. Offloading that sort of stuff to AI, that allows you to then do more of the interesting things, turning requirements that you're working with, like your PMs and your BAs and people of that are looking at the business side of things, working with them and turning those into requirements that you can then implement in the application you work with. That's hard. And yes, we can maybe leverage like agents to do a bunch of that work, but again, it's not going to do, at least I feel like it's not doing it to the same level of power that I would do it if I was just writing it like completely on my own. So I leverage the AI to accelerate that. And I think that's where it really comes in, is that you got to think of these tools as an accelerator. And yeah, to your point of like, if an organization is like, well, let's get rid of half of our development team and now we're going to be just as efficient. Well, I think it's a very short-sighted approach to how you do that, because you're not truly understanding what the role of the developer is doing. Instead, you give a development team these like AI tools, and they're able to now build out faster, more efficient systems, because they're not spending a lot of their time on the tedium aspects of it. AI is really great at writing tests. Developers, like how many developers really love writing tests? I dare say that most developers are probably not writing tests to the level of coverage that would be ultimately valuable. Delegate that to AI. So the developer builds out the system based off of requirements that are being given. That gets turned into tests. You then validate those tests as going to be the right thing. And now all of a sudden, instead of spending 2 days, 1 day implementing, 1 day writing tests, you've spent 1 day implementing, and then on the next day, you're starting the next bit of implementation while something else is doing tests for you.
Tests and security, in fact, infrastructure as well. I hated so many times. I was nearly close to tears with frustration because what I was trying to build wasn't working, and I assumed it was that my code was no good. And in the end, it's just that darn infrastructure and security stuff blocking my deployments.
Yep.
And now with the help of Copilot, it just helps me understand that, it helps me troubleshoot that, it helps me free that up and push it to production.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I have been stressing is the difference between us and between those people that will find themselves out of roles in the new world of work, is that we are genuinely excited and curious and have that continuous learning mindset. In fact, all of you on this call now, you're here because you want to learn more and you want to understand how things are changing and how you can best set yourself up for that change, which I think it puts you ahead of 80% of the people out there. And Rule 0, that everyone should always keep front of their mind is no matter how much the AI does for you, you own the code. You own the code. And when you are making your changes and you've assigned a bunch of issues to coding agents and it's doing all of those for you, it's setting up the tests, it's doing all sorts of stuff. When those things are merged in, it says it was done by a coding agent with Michelle or with Aaron. And so your name is stamped all over those changes. So you can't blindly just accept the changes and say, yes, go, agent did it, it's all its fault. If it goes wrong, it's not its fault, it's your fault. You have to stay awake, you have to pay attention, you have to remember that it's you that are the decision maker in that process. You are the guide, you are the one that is telling that agent what the architecture is and what the purpose is, what the intent is, and you're approving that. And so when things go wrong, it's not the agent's fault, it's your fault if you approved it. And if you don't understand it, then don't push it in. Like, ask it more questions, ask it to explain the code to you until you get it. And if there's stuff you're not sure about, keep asking those questions and maybe keep iterating on that code before you allow it to merge in. And that's the difference. Those people that just let it do all the work and then just push without even reading it, those people will not have jobs, because anyone could do that. Any kid off the street could do that. The difference between you and that kid is you are paying attention, you're learning, and you're taking responsibility for the work that you do with your Copilot together. That was a bit of a rant.
Someone in the chat, Zino in the chat I actually think is a really clever way to use some of the stuff we've been talking about it. So they pointed Copilot with the build skill to their GitHub and their LinkedIn and asked to find sessions that would be relevant and interesting to them. And to your point there, Michelle, about being curious and wanting to learn something new, this is a great way to do it. Like, look at what you're doing, what your skills are, and you recommend where gaps might be, and like what sessions are going to be relevant from build based off of the gaps that you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. There is another thing in the chat there that Yuri's just put in there. Imagine customers saying the same and building the product themselves instead of buying it. That triggers a downward spiral. I don't think so. I don't think it makes sense to build everything from scratch yourself. Even if you have an AI agent to help you, you would be burning through so many tokens to build stuff that has already been built effectively. Like, financially, that doesn't make sense. You want to take stuff that is already built and built well and use that as your base, and build other stuff on top of that. Well, like use Awesome Copilot, for example, to put your custom agents in, to put your own organization's special sauce, special sprinkles on top of the donut. Building everything from scratch is not that's a crazy way to burn all your tokens, I would say. Interesting if you want to learn how to build something from the ground up. Absolutely do that with an agent and get it to teach you what it is building and growing, but that's not a way to that's not going to put your company ahead of the game if they start everything from scratch.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Well, we're pretty much nearly at the end, Aaron. So do we have any extra wisdom that we want to give them? Let's see. What have I put in my little notes? Registration and calendar sync. So don't forget to register at build.microsoft.com, free for online attendance. And once you're in, you can save your sessions like you've seen me doing in the agenda, and then you can sync them straight to Outlook or your calendar of choice. When I did that the other day, and I hadn't installed the build CLI. But I just asked Copilot in the CLI to tell me about build. What it did was it said, I checked your emails because I have got a little, I forget what you call it, a little thing in there that like connects it to my work. We call it Work IQ. And it said, I can see that you have registered for build already, and you have a calendar reminder in your calendar. Do you want me to go to the internet and search for more stuff about build? Because I hadn't got the CLI in there yet. And yeah, so it already knew stuff. So if syncing it to your calendar is a good thing to do. We have explained the levels. We have gone through a few of our favorite sessions and shown you how you can get GitHub Copilot CLI to help you pick those. But also, you know, you can just do it in the agenda page if you prefer that. So yeah, that's our preview. Build runs 3rd to 5th of June. Register at build.microsoft.com. If you are there, go and find Aaron and say hello to him in the expert area. Yeah, cheers everyone.
I'll be easy to find. I'll probably be around with my juggling balls.
Yes, that is a point. Aaron tries to augment his personality with juggling balls. So it's yes, that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And
cheers everyone.
I say, and one last thing, I believe we're doing a recap session just after build on the Reactor channel. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
That is true. Hang on. What have I got in my little slides? So do I have, yes, register for build. Here's like a QR code for you. So you can see that there. And yeah, and then come back to us after build, and we will go through that session where we'll talk about what was amazing. Aaron can show us if he if he found any particular things in person. I remember one year they had like a little puppy pen or something where you could pat puppies. I don't know what they will have that is cool there this year, but I hope that you will take some pictures for us so we can live vicariously through you, and we can look at those in our recap afterwards. So yeah, have fun at build, Aaron, and all of you. Yeah,
see you all. Thanks for joining us today, folks.
Thanks everyone.
See ya.